Hey, Traffic Jam, Rainier Avenue Radio, download the app so you don't miss out what's popping with Crackers Shannon. It's your boy, Cream the Dream, on another beautiful week on here on Traffic Jam in Seattle. I hope you guys doing what you're supposed to do, being you're supposed to be. I got a good show for y'all, a lot to talk about, Kareem the Dream, keep up with everything.
Get your entertainment news with Kareem on the Traffic Jam, Thursday at 4 p.m.
This is Brenda Charles Edwards, host of Seniors Matter. Join me every week to get information on activities and issues that impact the lives of older adults and their families. That's Seniors Matter every week on Rainier Avenue Radio.
This is a Rainier Avenue Radio message, fentanyl awareness in our campus.
Talk about awareness, drug user awareness, to talk about how to use Narcan, to do that kind of education on the street for people to make sure that they have it available. These folks are our neighbors, they're our community members, they're our families, folks who start out for any given reason, and there are countless different reasons why people end up living outside, but it's part of the community and the culture. If they didn't start out using substances, they end up using substances. If they've stayed outside for any length of time, they will end up with chronic medical conditions. The cost that it ends up creating for the community, for people to be in and out of the emergency room.
This has been a Rainier Avenue Radio message on fentanyl in our communities.
This is Paul Pearson, host of Star Time. And when I'm not being reprimanded by traffic cops, I'm listening to RainierAvenueRadio.world.
Hello. Whew. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Dr. Traci Harrell, and you're watching Better Together and Living Powerfully. So you might be asking a little bit about the focus for the next series. So my producer wrote Better Together Empowerment Series. We've been talking about this Better Together Empowerment Series because, we all together can live our best lives. What I get to share you today is a consolidated view of what if someone told you you had superpowers and you didn't even know. So I'm going to give you an overview. So I lead a program called the Living Powerfully Experience with Positive Intelligence. Positive intelligence is like, 1/10 of the content. And I've been focusing on it because it really is a critical foundation. So I'm going to pull these slides up, and we're just going to talk through the concept of superpowers. Like, what are your superpowers and what can you actually do with them? I know it's going to be fun. So I don't know if my producer is going to help me or if I'm going to be the brave girl. Ooh, I did it. Yay. I don't know if he did it or I did it. I clicked on something, but it's very likely that he did. We'll see. Okay, so what we're going to talk about is there are 5 sage superpowers, and we may not even get through all of them. I'm going to let this be part of a series because then I'm going to go back and talk about steps that we can take. I've given almost all of the information over, a few months here. I talk about this as it's not training, it's transformation, but it has to include some training so that you can do the transformation. So this is just a little bit more of like, how do I truly activate? What are some of the things I can do when I see my saboteurs? We all have them. When things happen that are not aligned with the me I want to be, when how I want to show up, those are called saboteurs. You could take an assessment, which we call a saboteur assessment. You read through that information. It's just the beginning, because then you have to really invest time in saying, how do I stop living on autopilot? There's some things people do, and it's just like, that's just who I am. Even though it doesn't lead to the outcome that you want, even though it damages your relationships are things we still do, right? Those are the saboteurs. But then that's the left side of our brain, right? Those are the things that have protected us when we were young. But right now, as adults, most of us are saying, how do I live my very best life? How do I live powerfully? So what we've been able to do, this is just part of it. Like I said, this is about 10%, but it's so powerful because it's like if you don't do these things or have some awareness in these areas, you're building, castles on sand. We have so many people who show up, in Facebook, like, hey, hi, and then their real life, they like, throw away relationships and trash people's, feelings like they don't matter, and people matter. And so this is like, how do you become your best self? How do you improve your relationships? All of them, whether you're the parent who wants to have a better relationship with your children, or you're talking about love relationships or business relationships, teaming, like all of that. But then you might also be thinking about your own performance, right? Or your own well-being, like anxiety and stress. It comes when we don't use these superpowers, like whether we, I can go on and on and on, right? We can talk about the bad things that happen. And really right now, based on the political climate and based on the, financial climate that many of us are going through, and just in general, it's like, how do I focus on being my best self? So stay with me, because today we're going to talk about some sage superpowers. The left side of our brain is the analytical thinking side. The right side is the feeling. It's the sage. It's like the golden essence within. It's like the purity of our best self. So allowing us to be wise and to pause and to walk in ease and flow. This is like how you do that. Ooh, it's exciting, right? Okay. So this presentation talks about all sage superpowers. Okay. And when I take people through the program, it's typically week 4 or module 4 of what I call the Living Powerfully Experience with Positive Intelligence. So when I take pods or smaller groups through it, this would be like week 4 or module 4. I had a group that I was taking through, and I really cared about these people. And I was like, I didn't want to get to this too early, because it's like, what are you doing as individuals? What are you seeing within yourself? Right? What the judge and what saboteurs are you seeing? Have you practiced building, your PQ routines, breathing, pausing, stopping, and then being able to do these things, right? So they're all kind of connected. And so I want to just go ahead and put this out into the universe as well, so that people are like, okay, I get it even more. Now, most people need a coach. They got to coach them through this process, especially when they think about their one-on-one life. But when you're in a pod and you're in a group, this is part of what we can do together. So stay with me. So week 4, the first of 5 superpowers is empathize. And you might be like, empathize? Yes. As a group, we talk about empathize. We do a discussion in a way that allows us to move through. But I'm going to say, for us, I'm going to move through a lot of these slides really quickly. We typically start with a guided PQ rep, which again can just be breathing. If you just inhale and exhale. Oh, who said they're doing this? Who's doing this? You ain't doing it like I'm doing it. No, I'm just joking. I'm joking. Put your contact information in here. I love it. So what I do is I take what they talk about with positive intelligence and I level it up. So please, if somebody just put in the chat that they're doing this, so tell me more. I love it. So basically what I've done is level it up. Like, how do you take it to the next level? That's what the Living Powerfully experience is with positive intelligence. Like I said, it's about 10%, but it's so powerful. So yeah, I'm glad they're doing it. So she's saying that within her organization, that they're paying for people to do this work. And the reason I love this is because when you have this type of foundation, you can build on it in a number of ways that allow your teams to be better. But you got to be willing to do the work for yourself first. And it's not as glamorous. It's not as fun. Some people might call it somewhat woo-woo, but let me just say, it's scientifically proven to work. It's the neuroscience of the brain. So thank you for that comment. I'm a Southern girl, so I need a little I need a little amen corner. You love it. It does take discipline. Look at my peoples. Oh, and actually people say it takes discipline. These are just choices. Because when you think about the concept, like we get to choose differently. right? We get to pause and choose. So a PQ rep allows us to just pause. It's like focusing on something physical. So you could rub your fingers together lightly and just feel the ridges of your fingers. So whatever you were thinking, whatever you're about to do, it's like, pause. I'm gonna focus on something physical. You could just squeeze your toes together. You could squeeze your hands. You could just breathe. Inhale and exhale. Whatever you're doing, you're focusing on your breathing and you're pausing. So that's a guided PQ rep. We've done it, I think, a few times on this show. Again, this is what I do. Put my email in here. Anyway. If anyone wants to reach out, this is what I do. But my goal is to put the information out there so you see. So we talked about these saboteurs, right? And whether you know what your saboteurs are, it's what name they go by is almost irrelevant. Right? That's almost irrelevant. The more you know, it's more powerful than you can see it and name it. But just the idea, every time you have any negative emotion, any negative feeling, any anxiety, any feelings about someone else, when you're feeling like you're not at ease and flow, it's a saboteur, right? They're talking to us, the judge in our own head, right? The controller, it could be the hyperachiever, it could be the pleaser, the avoider. They have names, right? We all know ourselves. When you take this assessment, it's actually powerful. It's just like step one powerful, right? It's not the end all be all at all, right? It is about us being different. So stay with me. So you want to do the work and see your saboteurs, and that's an ongoing journey. And then, as you do the work, hopefully different things will surface. I'm going to focus on this concept of empathize, right? Okay, so I think I might be clicking too fast, so stay with me. Okay, so when you think about empathizers, there's 4 elements that are brought into this module. And when you do this officially, there's probably 5, 6 different ways you can do PQ. You can actually be in the system, so you have an account that's part of the PQ app. It's very powerful. It provides you with a daily focus, topics, and then things you can practice, and then the modules are inside, and the book is inside. It's a lot for most people. It really is. It's amazing, but it's a lot. What I do is I'm able to bring it all together and help people to focus on really what their goals are. And I actually took another group through this, and some of the people were like, I've never even downloaded an app before. So they were overwhelmed by all the things. So that was my learning as well, because when people are overwhelmed, and I think I'm too much anyway, I was like, let me just let them go through the process. But I had so much more to share. So again, I really like working with groups and getting people really prepared for the work. So here we go. So empathize is one of the superpowers. And what they talk about with this is the Golden Buddha story. So there's a story about this 11,000 pound, this huge Buddha that was in a monk. And it was back in 1760 where it was made out of gold. And there was an invading group coming through and taking everyone's valuables. And so the monks, who had this beautiful, huge Buddha statue made out of pure gold, covered the statue because it was standing at the base of a building that was made out of plaster, concrete. And so they plastered over the gold. So when the invaders came, they took all the stuff, but they didn't know that this huge Buddha, the size of a building, was made out of gold. And so these invaders killed all the monks, and 200 years went by before some other people came into this space, this temple, and they were going to move that Buddha. They were going to move it to a different location. And what they realized is some of the plaster chipped off, and they were like, wait a minute, there's something under here. So then when they chipped all the plaster off, they realized, oh my God, there's a golden Buddha. This is like a Buddha that, again, because it was covered, they didn't see the value in it. What he talks about with empathize is the lives that we all lead. We oftentimes, we have these saboteurs as young people, where we have had situations and people in our lives where we've had to kind of protect ourselves. And the way we do it is, it shows up as our saboteurs when we're adults. And so what he talks about is you're chipping away your saboteurs and those actions and the things that we do. You know, you don't get to say, hey, that's just who I am. That's just how I do. You don't get to say that anymore because you're on a different path. You're on a path of enlightenment, like true enlightenment. So now you're saying, hey, I'm going to chip away every time that saboteur, every time that negative energy shows up within me, every time that me shows up that I know is not improving relationships, every time that me that shows up that makes me have any type of anxiety or any negative feelings whatsoever, that's a saboteur. I don't even care which one it is, but I'm going to say, hey, there's a saboteur, and then I'm going to go do something different. And these are what you can do different. You start to empathize with yourself. That's one of the traits. And you can empathize with others. And empathy is really about unconditional love, right? It's about looking beneath the saboteurs that we all have, because we're all human, and finding our sage essence. And by sage essence, we mean that golden child within. And one of the exercises that he offers us he calls it a sense memory visual. So it's like finding a picture of yourself as a child, if that brings joy, if you can pour love into that child, even if you weren't loved or you didn't think you were loved enough as a child, can you love up your 5-year-old self? I have a cute picture of me when I was 5. It's adorable. And when I see it, it's like, oh my goodness, isn't this little girl, she was so sweet. And it talks about us going back to our essence, right? So you can pour into yourself. And if you can love yourself, a lot of people who have children say that the purest love that they have is for their children. So their sense memory is the picture of their child, either when it was born or some wonderful memory. So whatever it is, when you want to feel love for yourself unconditionally, or love for someone else unconditionally, you can pause, breathe, right? And bring the power of empathize, right? You can bring that forward. So if I had to summarize really quickly, that's it. It's not about a new you. It's about getting to the core of you, getting to that golden essence within, right? Each of our saboteurs offer conditional love. You're like, if you're a hyperachiever like I am, right? The conditional love is I got to do one more thing, right? If you're a pleaser, you really kind of do things that are about other people, not necessarily about yourself. So this journey allows you to pause and see the one thing you need to do every time the saboteur shows up, because they're all different, right? What do you need to do? That one step that you can take to move you forward. And so in this case, the power of empathy says when any of those saboteurs show up and tell you you're not enough, right? Because that's what they do. They lie. Right. And you can have this conversation with others. We can have it here. If anybody wants to put something in the chat, I'd be more than happy to communicate as well. But when you use your sage powers, you just have to remember that fear and love are really the two things, the two key areas that most actions are based on. It's either fear or love. And so when you think about the fears of losing control, the fears of being imperfect, the fear of looking bad, the fear of rejection, right? Not being enough, the fear of poverty, the fear of failure, the fear of being harmed. Like we have all kind of fears, right? And so, that's what our saboteurs depend on, is the fears. And that's why you see those hands, what do we do when we're afraid? So it's that shielding ourselves from these fears is how the saboteurs show up when we're younger. Stay with me here. This is some powerful stuff. So if you know that that's where they come from, that's conditional love. Your saboteurs say, hey, you got to do this thing in order for you to feel loved. And that's what we knew and believed as children. So instead, you want to pause, and do these PQ reps and breathing and just creating a space where you're not in autopilot. And you want to ask yourself some questions like this, which are, what are some of the conditions that your saboteurs set for you to have or to earn self-love? Does it tell you you're not worthy of love? Have any of you felt that way? I know I have. And I'm a loving person. I'm lovable. We all are, right? But our saboteurs are going to tell you, I'm not worthy of love. And when we work and we do these, when we respond in life to what our saboteurs say, It only lasts for a short period of time. Those are conditional love. Says you got to fulfill this condition and then you're loved. Now you got to fulfill it again. And you got to fulfill it again and again and again. So if you think about it, where's the fun in that? Right? There is no fun in that. There is no fun in that. Let me just be clear. There is no fun in that. So if you know that it only lasts for a short time, you want to ask yourself about those conditions, right? That your top saboteurs, they make you earn for self-love, right? That conditional self-love, how's that impacted you? I got to keep doing and doing and doing? You really don't. So what we're asking you to do with this empathy, this power of empathize, is to remember your sage, to remember it is your golden one. We're not actually asking you with the living powerfully experience with positive intelligence. We're not actually asking you to be somebody new, even though we say it's transformational. We're asking you and reminding you and showing you how to tap into your sage brain more, how to tap into your golden one, that golden essence that is within you. That's all you're tapping into. So you're remembering, you're pausing those saboteurs, and you're going to your true sage essence. So every practice, all the time that we spend practicing, breathing and pausing, those sage reps. It sounds basic. It sounds super basic, but it's scientifically proven to work if you let the basics be basic and you just work the process, right? It's beautiful. So when you think about your sage self, the golden one, right? This is like pictures of young people. So if you don't have a picture of yourself, but you have a picture of your child or some other children or pictures of a puppy, whatever it is, right? There could be someone in your life that's like evilly, put that in air quotes, that brings you anxiety. And so you empathize with that person too. This is not only scientific, but it's spiritual, right? So you get to do both. So you empathize with yourself first, but you can also empathize with others. You can also, bring empathy into a situation, right? Because remember our SAGE perspective, the SAGE perspective with positive intelligence, that is that every situation can be turned into a gift and an opportunity. So this is how you turn those situations into gifts and opportunities. This is what you do. You tap into the empathize power, right? For yourself and for other people. So that idea of visualizing a child, visualizing yourself as a child, what you're going to remember is, you're positive. 5-year-olds are positive, beautiful, worthy of love. So we could just ask you to take, a moment and remember yourself as a 5-year-old. And remember how positive and beautiful and worthy of love you are. Think about your child when they were 5 or younger or whatever, right? Whatever, your grandmother. Anything that brings you joy. When you can tap into the love unconditionally, and that's the word that matters. I am worthy. You are worthy. Period. So when those saboteurs, which again, they come in, they show up. They're going to show up all the time. When the saboteurs show up, you get to pause and say, nope, that's not how this works, right? I see you, number one. Thank you for showing up, but we're not going there. Not this time. Like I see you now, so I get to be different. I don't have to be you because I see you, right? Now I get to love myself unconditionally. And oftentimes, I work with groups and they're like, I don't even remember. I don't get enough love. I don't even know what that feels like. So we're going to create a space where we practice unconditional love. And just remember that it's our saboteurs that form that plaster facade that covers up your sage superpowers. I love this. So you get to remember who you truly are. Remember your sage. Remember your golden one. Isn't that beautiful? That's all it is. It really is about pausing, remembering you, discovering, remembering, and loving your true self. Say the words, y'all. Discovering, remembering, and loving my true self. That's what empathize, it means for you. Not someone else. It's within you. So when you think about some of these positive, essential qualities that represent your untrading self, this is the beautiful thing about the app, which I love now, is that you get to ask questions and write your answers and then come back and do reflections. So this is one of the questions that I put here so you can see what it is, but it's really about calling it out. Like, what are those qualities? When I think about my 5-year-old self and the things that are my essence, not that I want to be, but that I know I am already. It's not aspirational, right? My true self, I really am loving. I'm giving to my heart. I'm kind. I'm positive. Like, I always see the positive. I get on people's nerves seeing the positive side of a situation. So anyway, we'll keep moving. But you can only, this is the interesting part that we talk about. This is neuroscience. We've said this from the very beginning. You can only experience love through your sage brain. Remember how we talked about the left side of the brain, the analytical side of your brain, the chatter. And then the sage side is really the feelings, right? You get to feel differently, and you feel that through your sage brain. So when you do the PQ reps in the morning and PQ reps throughout the day, and you do, like, you're fueling your sage brain so that when the shenanigans jump off, and whether it's your shenanigans, your saboteur showing up, or someone else's, if you're doing PQ reps throughout the day, you built the force fields, right? You're ready. I'm joyful. I'm happy. Like, you can't even, it takes two to tango. So somebody could be throwing something and you got a force field, it just falls off. Throwing darts, they don't penetrate, right? Because you practice building your sage side of your brain, right? And you can only experience love through the sage side of your brain. And so that's why that practice is so important. We talk about empathy circuitry. So when I say it's, again, you don't need to know all this stuff I'm about to talk about now. So I've lost a few people, so I'm going to go really fast so you understand. But you don't have to know about the empathy circuitry in your brain, but your brain is the most powerful microcomputer in the world, right? With all the connections, you don't have to know all about this, but as you think about the neuroscience of the brain, there's circuitry. And so as you ignite that circuitry from something known like yourself, right, you can ignite the empathy circuitry and then apply those feelings, because now the sage is risen. It's like feeding your Jedi superpowers, fueling them, right? When you do the sage, a PQ rep and you're fueling your sage, you're actually, fueling your Jedi superpowers, right? So whether you're fueling the weapon or fueling a force field that says, hey, I'm here and no one can harm me, right? And anything that comes my way, I can resist because I have these powers. So just know that as you do a PQ rep, it seems so simple. We talk about doing it in the morning when you're brushing your teeth, when you're drinking water, when you're eating a salad, when you're, at all times. Hello, people. Excuse me, little munchkin. Stop. I'm sorry. I have to throw something over here. Stop. Sorry, I had to make a move. Okay, so empathy circuitry. So in our brains, we actually have these mirror neurons, right? So in our brain, we've talked about this. So I don't want people to be like, what the heck is she talking about? So it's scientifically proven to work. I'll just say that. This is the part of our brain, our insular cortex, or two parts of our brain where the sage and the empathy resides, right? So we talk about the anterior cortex as well. Again, I don't want people to freak out, so I'm gonna keep moving. Bottom line, just do some PQ reps, right? Just pause and breathe. When I first introduced this for the first few months, I was talking about like a situation that happened. I think I even showed, I got to take a break in a few minutes. Thank you, break time. So just stay with me here. So everything that we've talked about up until now basically comes back to some of the three basic things that we need to do, right? So we're going to take a quick break and I'm going to come back and continue to tell you how you get to leverage your superpowers. So stay with us.
I'm Paul Pearson, host of Star Time. And when I'm not cooking up a batch of my famous wood-flavored chicken, I'm listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
I went over a friend's house to eat, and the food just ain't no good.
A new law is helping people save more money on prescription drug costs. You may also be able to save. With Medicare's Extra Help program, your premium cost can be zero and your out-of-pocket expenses are low. Who should apply? Single individuals earning less than $23,000 a year, or married couples earning less than $31,000 a year. Even if you don't think you qualify, you should still check out this program. Visit ssa.gov/extra help. Medicare costs are covered by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Hey, Seattle, tune in to Lidline Sports every Monday, 7 p.m. to 8 p.m.
What up, yo? We are back. This is Pep, and the man that don't take no mess, Mr. O.P.I.S., Mr. Stevenson. What say you?
I hope you see the hat that I'm wearing right now. That's how mad I am.
I do. Man, you are angry.
I just want to make that be known.
Tune in to Lidline Sports every Monday, 7 p.m. to 8 p.m.
Lidline Sports.
Do you want to reach out to the Vietnamese community in Seattle? Just advertise in Le Viet Bắc, that is Northwest Vietnamese News, the longest running Vietnamese language newspaper in our region. Go to nvnorthwest.com.
Mga kaibigan, ito po si Kuya Bert Kawili.
And this is Miles Salvador from Australia.
And I'm Norb Kawili, also known as Norbcam.
Kung gusto niyo po ang latest news and events from the Philippines at yung local Filipino community, Phil Radio po.
We play Filipino music and interview guests from all around the world.
And I'll keep you updated on the latest Seahawks and sports news.
Kaya always tune in, Phil Radio, every Tuesday, 1 to 2:30 p.m. Pacific Time on Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
And in YouTube and Facebook. Salamat po.
Sediment cleanup of the lower Duwamish River has begun. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency and the members of the Lower Duwamish Waterway Group, which includes King County, the City of Seattle, and Boeing, have begun sediment cleanup of the Lower Duwamish Waterfall Superfund site. This important environmental project will address sediment pollution and help restore the health of the Duwamish River. Starting on the waterway's upper reach, construction activities extend from the South 102nd Street Bridge down straight to the Duwamish Waterway Park. Over the next 3 years, in-water activities will occur from October to February, ending in February 2027. Visit ldwg.org to learn about the upper reach cleanup and sign up for email updates.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Rainier Avenue Radio.world, the station that cares about our community.
Yeah.
Hey, we're back. And today we're talking about our superpowers, right? I mentioned that the work I do is called the Living Powerfully Experience. And about the first 10% that I've been focusing on over an entire year has been the Living Powerfully Experience with Positive Intelligence. And I have multiple certifications and a bunch of other things, but I found that this part as a foundation is just so powerful. So we've talked about the saboteurs. We've talked about like celebrating when you see them. Hey, Judge, I see you. Hey, whenever you're showing up and it's not your ideal, pause. But now we're talking about the superpower. So this week we're focusing on the superpower of empathize. And I know people are like, really? That is so woo-woo. Nope. It is scientifically proven to work. So hopefully my editor will help me get this thing in there. Look at us. We got it. I love it. So this is, remember, again, same content, scientifically proven to work if you work it. Now, if you think about it as training, and I'm saying it's really about a transformation, it's not really about the information that you get from me. It's about what are you doing with it? Like, how are you showing up differently? And if you're like, oh, I'm already doing it. Okay. Most of us need daily and weekly practice, right? You need practice to minimize the saboteurs, to increase your sage brain, to really be in a position where the things that you the relationships that you want to have, the performance that you want to have, the well-being that you want to have, and that you want to be so magnetic that the people around you are like, oh my God, everything, you know, like this person right here, their energy is positive. So that requires daily and weekly practice. So your children, the people that you work with, you show up differently, and that has a ripple effect. We call it sage contagion. There's also saboteur contagion, because when the saboteurs show up, somebody else's saboteur can trigger your saboteur. If you're always bumping heads, it's nothing but saboteurs. So you get to practice your sage. You get to protect yourself, right? You get to improve your performance, your well-being, and your relationships with this practice. And so it could be customized in 1,000 different ways, but this is just important for us to think about it as a lifestyle, right? So, and the one thing I've said from the very beginning, information and insight, it's not enough. It's simply not enough. Again, the Living Powerfully experience, again, we have 7 levels of living powerfully, and this is level 1. So, you know, like I said, I don't want to rush it, but I kind of want to get to it and get through it in a way that people understand it is a foundation. Everything else you say, when you show up inauthentically, right? When you got some information, I've read 1,000 books and I'm not applying all the things, God knows, at least, right? But hopefully people who knew me before see me and are like, okay, you're definitely moving in the right direction, right? Like you're not there, nobody is there, but hopefully they see that I'm different than I was. Like I was blind to some ways that I was in the past, thinking I'm helping people and harming them. Not my intention, sorry, right? Trying to be helpful. I think now I see differently, and hopefully I can be differently. That's what's important. So insight is important, but insight is not enough. You have to just really, for this particular superpower, love is the essence of empathy. They're like, oh Lord, love, yes. Love is the essence of the word empathy. So when you talk about a power that's, you know, to empathize, it's the power to show true unconditional love, right? You know, I was talking to a group and they were talking about their children, and they're like, you know, if you think about it, when your child does something bad, you know, when that bad thing in some way makes them think that you don't love them anymore, you don't love them the same because they done messed up. It's like now they're learning that love is conditional. And you want to make sure they know your love for them is unconditional. You shouldn't be doing that, true, but it doesn't affect how I love you. It doesn't affect the essence of who you are, the being. You want them to feel like they're lovable. And if you, the mama or the daddy, don't love them the same, right, all times, if they don't feel that love, if you're not saying it and doing it, just because your parents didn't say it and do it for you, doesn't mean you can't say it and do it to someone else, to your children. That's how we change the next generation. So love is the essence of this concept of empathy. And you have a whole scale, right? You can have low intensity and high intensity empathy, right? It can be based on appreciation, you know, gratitude, compassion, right? That's empathy. Someone in one of our sessions said a word that is like my most favorite word of all, and he was talking about it as grace. You know, we get grace if you believe in a higher power. The reason I love this stuff is so it's the scientific, but it's also aligned with the spiritual, and that's who I am. I'm a Libra, so I got this little, hopefully, I push a balance, right? Like I don't believe that they're in conflict in any way. Excuse me. So there's balance. Okay. So if you believe in these words, this is part of your superpowers. This is what you get to do. So love is at the core of your actions, of your thoughts, of this power. And then you might be like, okay, so how do I do this again? What is this empathize thing about? Again, we started talking about PQ reps. And fortunately, we're still only talking about the same 3 things. Fueling your safe brain with PQ reps, right? Minimizing, intercepting your we're stopping them in the moment. I see you. I see. It's enough. It's enough to say I see you, and then do your PQ reps. That's fueling your brain. Then you get to make different decisions. Does that make sense? So you get to make different decisions. So the PQ reps to activate this circuitry, this empathy circuitry, is what's really important. And then how you do it, that next level. So it's kind of like 2 steps with empathy. So you pause, silencing the saboteurs. You pause because you're going to fuel the sage side of your brain, and you're going to do some PQ reps to activate this empathy circuitry. Remember I said this is the brain, most powerful supercomputer in the world. They don't have any supercomputer. AI combined cannot be more powerful than our brains, but we don't use them. We don't necessarily, we're not as intentional, because our brains are designed to be an autopilot. That's ease and flow for us. Even if autopilot is not serving us, that's what this is allowing us to do, is to stop the bad autopilot stuff, the things that cause our bad feelings and emotions. This is what the living powerful experience with positive intelligence. Again, there's other elements, but I'm just saying it's a very core thing. It's like, if you can't be worried about the team until you got yourself in check. So let's get yourself in check, and then again, we could talk about the other elements. So this concept of empathize, the superpower of empathize says, you can do the PQ reps to pause. You activate that circuitry. You're breathing, you're, and releasing. You're doing any number of PQ reps. We've talked about that before. Consult to the more of them. But then you add what we call a sense memory. And love, yay. If it's a picture of your children and that brings you joy and love, yay. If it's a picture of a puppy and you're like, oh my God, my favorite puppy, a rabbit. My first pet was a rabbit. A horse that you love. If it's a picture of just a sunset and that's your favorite place and you're like, oh, this is where I fell in love. This is what, whatever it is. So it's really you finding a place, an image, right? We call it sense memory visual. You find some image, right, that allows you to feel love. And then you apply it to whatever situation, to yourself and to others. That's what the superpower of empathy, of empathize, is all about. Hopefully that makes sense. You're feeling love, which oftentimes, again, as adults, especially Black adults, you know what I'm saying? Like, we weren't, fueled necessarily with feeling love. We many of us were not allowed to feel our feelings in general, good or bad ones, right? So maybe go back to Black history. You know what I'm talking about. Y'all know what I'm saying. So you get to feel the love, feel it for yourself. Sometimes, I'll be even more intentional, when I'm doing this type of work, because it's like, think about feeling yourself, feeling love for yourself and for other people. I'm going to move through this really quickly, but I did want to share that as you think about your takeaway for today, you want to think about what you're grateful for. What works when you're having, and what can you do better? That's part of a normal checkout. So I'm going to move a little bit into, so stay with me here as I move a little bit forward. This is how I would start my week 5 module, which talks about the sage perspective, explore and innovate. And I have some more stuff about empathize in here. So I'm going to go ahead and give you that information real quick. So again, what I want to make sure people remember, I'm going to stop here on this slide, is the sage perspective. If you guys remember the sage perspective, and you have these superpowers, these new 2 superpowers we're going to talk about next week, is going to be explore and innovate. But the sage perspective is that every situation or every circumstance can be converted into a gift or an opportunity. That's like, what is my belief? So as a transformational coach, what do I believe? Do I really believe that every situation can be turned into a gift? I do. Like, that's part of who I am. That's why this kind of is relatively easy for me, right? Simple for me. I won't say easy because I still, we're all on a journey. But I do believe that every situation can be turned into a gift and an opportunity. That's the scientific side. If you believe that in your head, then you accept and you convert. You make it so. You make it so. That's also aligned with spiritual beliefs, right? Where everything will work out for your good, right? For those who believe, I'm a believer, so I know everything is going to work out for my good. Period. I probably overhelp people. I help more people than I ever should help, probably. I invest more time helping others than helping myself. In 2025, it's time to thrive, right? For me too. And part of my joy is in putting information like this out into the universe so people are aware. Oh, okay. So the sage perspective, my belief, I have to believe this, that every situation can be turned into a gift. And then we show you how to turn every situation into a gift. Does that make sense? So if you can believe that, your saboteurs are going to tell you that whatever has happened is bad. Bad, bad, bad. This is horrible, right? Every situation. And I'm not going to go through all of this, whether you're waiting or mistakes that happen, your saboteurs are hijacking you. You have some kind of conflict in your relationship. You have some hardships from back in the day, trauma that you've experienced, right? You don't wish these bad things happen. No one does. You don't wish them to happen. You don't. But what you're saying is it happens. Right? The living powerfully experience is saying it happens. Shenanigans is going to show up. It happened. When these bad things happen, what you get to decide is that this situation, whatever it might be, can also be turned into a gift and an opportunity, right? And you get to generate the gift, right, with these 5 superpowers that I'm talking about. Today, we're just talking about empathize. There are others, right? We'll talk a little bit more, but I just want to make sure we're clear. Life will be lifing, as the young people say, right? Shenanigans will jump off. I don't know why I'm loud. I get excited. I get excited about this stuff. So you get to generate the gift. You get to decide, if I believe that every situation can be turned into a gift or an opportunity, right? Everything will work out for my good. If I believe that, right, then I'm going to move past this. Then there's 2 things we're going to talk even deeper about next week, and that's explore. Discovering the fuller truth is what explore. That's another superpower. That's superpower number 2. So we empathize is number 1. Explore is number 2. That's discovering the fuller truth. Again, I'm just giving you some little tips, right? So you want to ask yourself, when you're thinking about this superpower, what else might be true in this situation? Right? I love explore. And I found that when something is happening, say you're having a conflict with someone, or you're just struggling with the thing and you're like frozen, you should be doing it, but you're not doing it. What's really true about that? You want to ask yourself the question. You can ask the question of other people, but you're always asking these questions to discover the fuller truth. You're asking them with no judgment. Because again, that's why we spent the first few modules, right? The first real investment in time. You can't do any of these things if you haven't grounded yourself in being able to catch the judge. I see you. I see you. To see those saboteurs. I see you. That's all you got to do is see it and celebrate. And then, right, you're able to do the empathize, explore, innovate, right? Activate, navigate. Any order that you choose. Empathize we put first because it's the pause. It can be your core, right? Because the judge is so insidious, right? So it gives you an opportunity to explore and discover the fuller truth. Let me give you an example. You guys have heard of the example where they call it the elephant example with explore. So you have 4 people that approach an elephant. The person's in the front and they're like, it's like a hose, and they're holding onto the trunk of the elephant. The person on the side is like, it's a wall. What you talking about? The person at the leg is holding onto a tree trunk. It's like a tree trunk. And the person at the elephant's tail is like, it's a snake. Well, each of those people are true. Are sharing their truth. It's not the full truth, right? How many times do you have a situation where you've reacted to something and you haven't discovered the full truth, the fuller truth? Maybe you'll never know the full truth, but a fuller version of the truth, fuller than what you already know. So if you approach a situation, they use a term called as a curious anthropologist. Like I'm here for information only, no judgment, right? I'm here for information. So I want to explore, discover the fuller truth, ask what else might be true here, right? So whenever someone triggers you, you can also, you can empathize with them, right? Empathize with yourself, right? Pause, explore what else might be true here. Discover the fuller truth. What else might be true? Discover that. Ask questions without judgment. And you can ask something, hey, help me understand that a little bit more. I'm not sure if I understand. Help me to understand. Tell me more. 3 words. Tell me more. No judgment. You're smiling. Even if it's a fake smile, you can put it on. Because you're smiling. You should be smiling. Let me tell you why you should be smiling. You should be a real smile, because if you're in this explore mode, that means you've seen one of your saboteurs, the judge or somebody you was about to feel some kind of way, And you're like, what? That's my saboteur. Any negative emotion, any negative feeling, it's a saboteur. So you're gonna be smiling because remember the concept of the saboteurs is you see your judge, you see your other saboteurs, and then you celebrate. I see you. Yes, I see you. Like the seeing is the thing to celebrate. That's step one. I see you. That's how you know you're not moving in autopilot. It ain't your old you. It's the new you. So you got to be smiling when you go to empathize or explore because you just finished celebrating. Hopefully, like, hey, somebody else was like, hey, what if I don't celebrate all like that? Something amazing happens. You hit the lotto, yay, right? Your team wins a goal, yay. Or it could be prayer. Like you could be like, this other person said, talked about like, what if I want to go inside, right? That's fine too. But let it be real. If you're going to be grateful and a true celebration and you're praying, Lord, thank you for helping me to see my saboteurs and helping me. Thank you for letting me see the job. Do it for real. Like put some energy into it. You know how Tony Robbins is always jumping around, it's because he knows you combine the mind and the body together, that physicality. Your brain is like, oh, whatever she's doing, I need more of that. Like, I like that. I want more of that. So if you're constantly seeing your saboteur, seeing your judge, and you're seeing and you're celebrating, and you're like calling it out, hey, I see you. Hey, I see you. Yes. 10 seconds of celebration. Your body's like, okay, we want to do more of that. Like, I like that. And in your brain, that's how you create new neural pathways. We were talking about the empathy neurons and you're creating new neural pathways. Each of these superpowers have neural pathways that you get to, that you're building, right? So you're doing something differently. You're becoming different. This is the transformation part. So you see the saboteurs, you acknowledge them. Yay, I see you, right? You empathize. Okay, I'm not judging. You explore. You can ask a question. Tell me more. They've said something. Maybe it would have triggered you. Maybe you think but just say, tell me more, right? That's innocent, and you want to know more. You want to discover a fuller truth, right? Man, I'm so mad at you because oh, tell me more. Like I'm not even sure what I did. And I'm not sure why I'm upsetting you, but that's not the outcome that I want. Like imagine this dialogue is happening, right? Someone is coming to you and they come in the door yelling, and you're like, instead of being triggered, right? Instead of having your saboteurs triggered when someone's saboteurs are showing up to you and they're like, they're instead of allowing that to happen. You ask a question. Oh, please no. I can't say the words. Feel the love. Little empathy. I'm not sure why you're feeling that way, but I do not want to make you feel that way. My apologies. But I don't even know what I did. But I know I care for you, and I do that. That is not an outcome that I want for you. Can you help me understand exactly? Tell me more about what happened and what I could do differently. Zip. Right. That's exploring. That's discovering the fuller truth. And then you think about how can we turn this into a gift and an opportunity? Once you've asked what else might be true, then you can innovate for new ideas with that person. If you just had a problem, I'm so sorry. What can I do differently in the future? Hello, I don't know, because I don't know, because this is not how I want to show up for you. But let's generate some ideas, but what I can do differently. We're going to talk about innovate more next week. But you're generating new ideas. So what's another idea? And so there's a whole process. You want to generate a bunch of ideas before you start evaluating them. No judgment, right? You want to generate a high number of ideas and you're not evaluating them. And there's this 10% rule that basically says whatever they say, even if it's crazy, right? You're going to say, you got to focus on the 10% that you do like, and you can say, yes, okay, what I like about that is blank. And here's another idea. Does that make sense? So I just kind of want to pause. Like, you don't want to overthink it, but this is like the first 3 superpowers. And I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. You're not overthinking it. And this is an example, which I'm not going to go through. Actually, I'm going to actually stop the slides. Okay. So how do I remove the slides? Thank you. Okay. So I know I talk fast. I get excited. I really do get excited about this stuff. And you guys can see at the very top when on the intro slide, Dr. James Carter, who is no longer with us, but he was the president of the National Black MBA Association. Literally, he died on the Monday before he died. That next Wednesday, we had scheduled another series where we were going to be bringing this content back into community. because he saw how valuable it was for himself as well as for those around him. He's like, we got to do more of this. Like, this should be how we show up in community. Like this, this is important work. And so we took a break as a chapter. We're allowed to do so. We took a break as a chapter. We are, I believe, we are in a position where we're ready to move forward. Someone reached out to me and said that they wanted to, Jordan Babineau reached out to me. He had been working with Dr. Carter from a leadership perspective for 2 years. And there were some things that, again, they were trying to move forward, and he is ready to move forward. So I'm proud to say we'll be bringing that conversation to the chapter, and we'll be bringing the opportunity for you all to meet him and to become a part of the chapter, for this the whole thing to be reignited. I can say that as VP of admin, the role of president is supposed to come to me. And I choose not to be president of the organization again for a number of personal reasons, but also from a leadership development perspective. We need someone that is like Jordan Babineau, who actually, has amazing contacts, who, we had another conversation today. He's amazing. Let me just say that. He's written this amazing book. So he's a leader. He understands the concept. Like I'm actually blown away. I feel like that's a little divine intervention, to have him reach out. And I'm like, yes, yes, yes. And again, per our bylaws, which we will share again with everyone, we're going to work the process. We're going to have an official elections process. But I just wanted to say that the National Black MBA Association was part of the reason I started this show, the Better Together Empowerment Series and the Living Powerfully Experience. Like, this is the work that I do in community. But it was because I wanted to pour into youth, into families, to the next generation. And so we're going to continue to do that with some new leadership, and I could not be more excited. So more to come on that. I just wanted to drop a little notice. And then we'll go to our website. It's seattleblackmba.org. We'll be announcing our next meeting, which is going to be on the 18th. It's going to be an online meeting. Anyone's welcome to join. If anyone has any comments or whatever, so we're going to put some stuff out there so people can join us as well. But if you want to be a part of the solution, the next steps, we ask that you join us. Yay. Okay, so I think I'm at time. I'm going to ask my producer to tell me how much time I have. I think what we have next is Lidline Sports. I don't see any. I have 2 minutes. Okay, thank you. So next we have Lidline Sports, hosted by Pep and O. And what you're going to hear from me over the next few weeks is going to be I'm actually writing a book on this concept. So I'm bringing these elements in a way that's really tight. I'm doing this little documentary series as well, where people, can, like, what would I wish I had if I was, 16? What's the content that I wish I knew in a very concise way? So that's part of this. So join us, and if you can bring comments and you want to chat and continue to share, please, please, please. I love people saying they love it. Yay. That makes me very happy. But I do look forward to continuing bringing opportunities to truly live powerfully to you right here on Rainier Avenue Radio, y'all. It's exciting. It is more than exciting. And again, when Dr. Carter passed away, what I realized is none of us are promised tomorrow. So this is my contribution to community. And he reminded me that we all get to live our legacy now. So my question to you is, what are you doing to live your legacy now? Live powerfully. You all got this. You got it, baby. Thank you so much for joining us here, and we do look forward to next steps. Remember, you can empathize, explore, and then innovate. Those are the first 3 of our 5 superpowers. And starting with PQ reps, if I had to go back and just do a quick reminder, you start with your PQ reps and you just get to fuel your sage brain. That's pausing and breathing, and then show up differently. You got it. Okay, y'all. Love you. This is Traci Harrell. Live powerfully. You got this.